Hello everyone and welcome back to the Bewarecast. I hope you're well. In this video we'll be taking a look at every species to appear in Dougal Dixon's 1990 speculative evolution work, Man After Man. As usual, we'll be going through them all in alphabetical order. Now very quickly I'll give you some background on the story. In Man After Man, by the 23rd century, Earth has become a toxic wasteland, almost uninhabitable. Human beings plan their departure from Earth to seek out new worlds to colonize, and in doing so, the first genetically engineered humans are created to aid in this mission. They are put to work on the gigantic spacecraft that will take humanity to the stars. By the 25th century, a group of intelligent future human species, themselves physically weak and overly reliant on machines, begin to design 5 new future human species to repopulate the desolate Earth and occupy the ecological niches once inhabited by now extinct animals. Here, I will give a brief overview of every species to appear. But before we start, I'd like to ask that you kindly hit the like button to help with the YouTube algorithm, and if you end up enjoying this video, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. Thank you. First we have the ant-men, a species of chimpanzee-like, ant-eating descendants of the temperate woodland dweller from the 30,000 and 20th century, 3 million years in the future. Some diets are so specialised that the entire body form evolves to accommodate them. The slow-moving and solitary ant-man has claws for tearing open ant hills, a long middle finger for reaching into the tunnels, and a startling coloration to warn enemies that its flesh is not good to eat. Extreme adaptation has lost the ant-man the sharp teeth and nails of its woodland-dwelling ancestors. Instead, the ant-man's defense is its vivid coloration and its specialized diet. Aquamorph. These beings were created with the purpose of helping in the construction of underwater deuterium mills for fuel used for the interstellar colonization project due to the collapse of the human civilization. These are characterized by their modified paddle-shaped legs, which allow them to swim, in addition to the change of the form of the head, which adjusts to be hydrodynamically efficient when swimming. The face is quite narrow, but broad at the sides, possessing only a couple of holes, rather centered eyes, large nostrils, and a wide mouth. Due to the genetic modifications on facial tissue and head shape, this is incapable of making facial gestures. Aquamorphs are able to breathe under the water by the use of gills that are located in the chest. They possess a high intelligence similar to Homo sapiens, and are able to use tools which they carry in a special belt. Although their inability to reproduce would lead them to their extinction after having completed the interstellar project, the experimentation of a lineage adapted to aquatic life able to survive and reproduce would continue by the same engineers who created them just before the project ended, establishing the foundations for the aquatics to be created. Aquatics. One of the 5 genetically modified base species of post-humans that appear in Man After Man developed to inhabit the aquatic environment, presenting many more marked adaptations than its indirect ancestor the aquamorph, with a highly modified morphology and the ability to reproduce. This is, chronologically speaking, the very first species capable of surviving on its own, and it turns out to be the last post-human lineage to survive after the mass extinction of 5 million years in the future. The aquatic is characterized by possessing a quite robust and wide body, head and chest. The hind limbs have modified into a long tail that finishes in a flat delta-shaped fluke. Its oval head has a flat face with huge glassy eyes like those of a fish, and also a rather reduced and atrophied nose that is only formed by the nasal openings, and a large wide mouth. This has a series of pectoral gills which were added with the purpose of making it dependent on aquatic life without the need to breathe air, a minor legacy of its aquamorph predecessor. The 2 arms still have the original arm structure of their ancestors, including hands with fingers, However, it has two paddle-like extensions on the sides that together form a fin for swimming. Cave dweller. This species was never given an illustration in the book. It is a hibernating, cave-inhabiting descendant of the temperate woodland dweller from 10,000 years in the future, the 120th century. It lives most of its life in subterranean caves. Desert runner. The desert runner, also known as the hunter, is a carnivorous, swift-footed, gremlin-like descendant of the temperate woodland dweller from the 30,000 and 20th century. A quote from the book gives this description. The fatty deposit across its shoulders can be depleted, but not yet exhausted. Bat-like ears radiate waste heat. Although similar in appearance to a hiver, the desert runner's ancestors originated in the temperate woodland. Through convergent evolution, the desert runners are beginning to adopt the shape that was designed into the plains dwellers all those millions of years before. However, the runners are carnivorous, unlike the hivers. Engineered pack animal. Beings of gigantic and voluminous aspect, characterized by their long arms and short legs, with enormous mechanical parts in the upper body which fulfill the function of breathing, having their head projecting from the back, these are used as creatures of work. Engineered food creature. Engineered from the hosts into mounds of fat and flesh, fed by chemical nutrients by the travellers of the stars. Small machines remove chunks of meat, tissue and body fat while the food creature is still alive. Engineered worker. Creatures genetically engineered from the temperate woodland dwellers who work small machinery, and instead of a head they have long black box-like devices. Fish eater. The fish eater is an upland-dwelling, semi-aquatic, piscivorous descendant of the temperate woodland dweller. It is a patient hunter, waiting for freshwater bony fish to swim closer in range. 3 million years have passed, and the results of constant natural selection and evolution are apparent. The temperate woodland dwellers have diversified and developed specialized body forms to fit different environments. Living by upland lakes and beside rivers, the fish eater is equally at home on land and in the water. Its pelt is smooth and glossy, its shape streamlined. Ears are small and close to the head, the neck is short, and feet are broader than usual. The Hibernator. The Hibernator is a forest-dwelling future human, another descendant of the temperate woodland dweller, and characterized by its ability to hibernate for long periods of time. The hibernators appeared during the period of 5,000 to 10,000 years hence, a product of the new cold climate. This species is capable of hibernating for the amount of time necessary to withstand the cold temperatures during the winter months, until the arrival of summer. However, only the males are able to do this, with the females being forced to migrate southward to survive, give birth, and care for their offspring. But these migrations often result in the loss of several females. The males are versatile in the construction of shelters formed by wood, which they use to pass the winter by and to accumulate the necessary food. Females appear to have a much lower life expectancy, living just a few years. This species is polygamous, and males tend to breed with different females throughout their lives. Hitek. This human subspecies diverged from Homo sapiens sapiens around 300 years hence for its almost total dependence on technological means to provide vital support to its fragile and atrophied bodies that vary in the degree of degradation depending on the individual. This by means of mechanical cradles, structures such as a box with a window where the head protrudes from the inside, while the body is kept suspended inside by means of harnesses and hydraulic arms. The cradle is connected to a huge crane with the central life support system in the back, which moves by means of levitation thanks to magnetism. Socially, they present several human characteristics and emotions, although they are able to regulate them artificially by means of different chemical compounds. Several of them seem to show a dislike for the original humans, considering them unsophisticated or primitive, and they only tolerate them for their versatility and ability to maintain their machinery. They live inside huge facilities, some of which are dedicated to the cultivation of synthetic foods, being driven by solar energy or the ocean thanks to huge underwater turbines and mobilized using large flying vehicles. Host. The host, or parasite host, is a bulbous, blubbery descendant of the Tundra-Dweller from the 20,000 and 20th century, 2 million years in the future. It usually plays host to parasites, hence the name. The islanders have evolved parasitic feeding habits that rely on the Tundra-Dweller's metabolic need to produce surplus fat. In this way, the obese hosts have found an ecological niche that allows them to exist now that the tundra plains have disappeared and the hunter symbionts and symbiont carriers failed. Hunter symbiont. The hunter symbiont is a spindly descendant of temperate woodland dwellers from the 120th century, 10,000 years in the future. They made peace with certain tundra dwellers, which became the symbiont carriers 5,000 years earlier. Two species form a single unit of value to both: symbiosis. The hunter symbionts have skills that their symbiont carriers lack. The hunting ability of the swift hunter symbiont provides enough food both for itself and its slow-moving carrier. The symbiont carrier, in turn, provides both with general movement and protection against the cold. Islander. The islander, also known as the island voyager or the island person, is a small-sized human from the 520th century, 50,000 years in the future. Descended from the temperate woodland dweller, those of the island clan, they have a mostly carnivorous diet and are downsized due to insular dwarfism. Memory people. The memory people, also known as boat people, boat builders, travellers or possessors of hereditary memory, are Australopithecine-like future humans from the 70th century, descended from the temperate woodland dweller with an advanced memory, able to literally recall the ways of their ancestors. As the genetic engineers have long gone, there can be no further artificial changes. When climates and conditions shift, altering habitats, the inhabitants must normally adapt or evolve to survive. But some of the woodland dwellers have had a different option. Parasite. A small parasitic descendant of the islander from the 20,000 and 20th century. The plains dweller. Also known as the Grassland dweller or migrant, it's a dark-coloured, troll-like species of human from 500 years in the future, engineered from antlers, that fills in the niches left behind by grassland-dwelling hoofed animals. A human engineered to live on open grasslands needs the adaptations of a grass-eating, non-human mammal. For the plains dweller, these include massive teeth that are replaced if they wear out chewing tough, silica-rich grasses and, more importantly, a specialised stomach within the bloated abdomen containing engineered bacteria that can break down cellulose, a substance not normally digestible by the human frame. Cutting edges on the hands help to scythe the thick grass, while the long legs enable the creature to move swiftly over the open landscape. Slothmen. A giant ground sloth-like descendant of the Tundra-Dweller from the 30,000 and 20th century. Temperature climates encourage the evolution of large creatures, bulk retains body heat, and large leaf-eaters can find enough nourishment to support their mass. By a process of convergent evolution, the Slothman is now similar to the large ground sloths of South America and North America from previous times. But two factors were needed to allow the tundra dwellers to evolve into slothmen: plentiful food and no enemies. Sustenance is still there, but now they face a newly evolving predator, the spike-tooth. Socials. The socials are pale, fat humanoids descended from the communal plains dweller that lives in the desert. Their principal enemies are the hivers, because they steal their babies and raise them as their own. Socials live in groups with a queen who is larger than all the others, similar to eusocial insects such as termites and ants. Spike-tooth. The spike-tooth is a vicious, predatory, smilodon-like descendant of the temperate woodland dweller. They usually hunt in mated pairs. Large plant-eating animals inspire the evolution of meat-eating creatures to feed upon them. The spike-tooth is heavier than the other hunting species of human. It can afford to be, needing neither speed nor stealth to hunt the leaf and twig-eating slothmen. It has slashing front teeth, able to penetrate the thick fur and tough skin of its prey. Temperate woodland dweller. The temperate woodland dwellers, also known as temperate forest dwellers, woodland dwellers or ground dwellers, are a quadrupedal, highly adaptable, Australopithecus-like human from the 25th century, engineered from antlers, that takes niches left behind in temperate environments. Their limbs are ideal for climbing trees. A human engineered to survive and flourish in a temperate forest without the backup of civilization would need to be omnivorous. Forests are less abundant than tropical jungles. To reach the full range of foodstuffs available, the temperate woodland dweller has to be extremely nimble and be able to live both at ground level in the undergrowth and high in the treetops. Arms and legs are of similar length and long, but agile climbing fingers increase its range. A covering of fine hair keeps the woodland dweller warm in the temperate conditions. Tick. A subspecies descendant of the Hitek that appeared between 500 to 1000 years hence, these voluminous and amorphous beings are the final result of the attempt to maintain artificially atrophied living bodies without the need of machinery. For this, they created the cultural cradle, a completely organic system which externally looks grotesque, being walking bags of flesh and fat that house within them several organs and a withered human body. Its face and functional sensory organs remain intact, and a number of legs and arms protrude from their flabby bodies that vary in amount depending on the individual aesthetic selection. Not much is known about their culture or cultures, and it can only be inferred that they were more or less the same as their high-tech predecessors. When the Tick's civilization began to collapse, they presented violent behaviours between one another, even killing their peers in violent fights due to the desperation to survive, assaulting facilities and succumbing to blind panic. Travellers of the Stars. The Travellers of the Stars, also known as Builders and Jemez Smoot's descendants, are the most advanced future human species to appear in the book, being the distant descendants of the human beings who originally left the Earth in the 23rd century. After 5 million years, the Travellers of the Stars find the planet Earth, yet they are unable to recognise that this is the planet of their ancestors. In a few hundred years, they radically transform the Earth's surface, building huge cities on land and oceans, transforming fauna into work and food tools, collecting all available resources, and gradually changing the atmospheric composition. At the end, in another 100 years, eventually they leave the Earth, probably in search of another planet to use, leaving the world in ruins and with only a handful of survivors in the deep ocean. Tree Dweller. The Tree Dweller is an arboreal tree sloth gibbon-like descendant of the tropical tree dweller from the 30,000 and 20th century. The long hooked fingers evolved to cling to the jungle canopy, but they can also break open insect nests under the bark. Small but slow, the tree dweller moves with deliberation through the humid rainforest, clinging tightly to the underside of the great spread of branches. Fruit is plentiful and insects abound. With no enemies and abundant food, there is no need for speed, aggression or change. Without the need to adapt or develop, the tree sloth-like tree dweller will remain in a state of stasis, able to breed, but unchallenged. Tropical forest dweller. The tropical forest dweller, also known simply as the forest dwellers or tropical tree dwellers, is an arboreal orangutan-like human from the 25th century, engineered from antlers, that lives in scrubby tropical forests. There is plenty to eat in tropical habitats. The climate is stable and seasons do not regulate the food supply. Like earlier animals that lived there, a human being engineered to live in the abundant rainforest needs only the ability to climb to feed itself. Cunning and intelligence are not necessary, though an instinct for survival is. A level of intelligence will redevelop in the tropical forest dweller over the coming millions of years as evolution takes place, but not as much as in species faced with more challenging environments. Tundra-Dweller. A large, white-furred, yeti-like human from the 25th century, among the 5 originally engineered future humans meant to live in tundra and conifer forests. They managed to survive and thrive for a staggering 5 million years before eventually being wiped out by the travellers of the stars. Aquamorph. An odd, genetically engineered, infertile, 3-lunged crustacean-like human, descended from the modern human, that can survive the wild winds of space in the 22nd century. The ultimate triumph of the genetic engineer. The product of grafting, surgery and cell manipulation, the Aquamorph can live and work in a free fall of orbit and the airless void of space. The basic human reproductive cells were manipulated to produce the necessary shape, but extra organs had to be grafted on, including a hard, impermeable exoskeleton grown from tissue culture. The result, however, is sterile. The Aquamorph has a limited life and no future of its own. The Aquamorph cannot breed and would not survive the rigours of gravity. Water Seeker. The Water Seeker, also known simply as a seeker, is a desert-dwelling, chimpanzee-like human from the 520th century, descended from the temperate woodland dweller. It is able to detect water from very far away. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell icon, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share it with anyone who you feel would enjoy it. I'd also like to thank my generous patrons and channel members who can be seen here. This has been the Bewarecast, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.